name's Anita Daher. I am a Canadian author of books primarily for younger readers. I'm here to celebrate today the second book in my middle grade series, The Mythic Adventure of Samuel Templeton. The first book in the series was called Peanut Butter and Chaos, very science-based, quantum physics, with some fantasy elements, magic. And the second book takes a much deeper dive into magic and Nordic mythology, still with some science in there. I'm sure you'll spot it. The book is called Peanut Butter and Pandemonium. And I am going to read the first chapter. If I get all the way through it, we'll see. And the first chapter in Peanut Butter and Pandemonium picks up where Peanut Butter and Chaos left off. Chapter 1, By the Book. As Sam flipped open the ancient-looking book with the mysterious Icelandic rune stave etched on its cover, a bright light filled his bedroom and everything began to spin. A wind came out of nowhere with a deafening roar. "Dad!" he cried, but his voice was lost in the pandemonium. Books and blankets flew, lights swirled. He heard a strange and distant scream, as if someone had cranked something old and rusty, something that did not want to move. He flew backward, and his room was gone. He found himself in blackness, but not dark. Everywhere there were pinpricks of golden light, and it was quiet, absolute quiet, as if his ears were plugged with clay. Sam blinked and his surroundings changed again. Now he was in a misty meadows with bees and other flying insects flitting between blossoms. From far off came the cry of a bird of prey. There was a man sitting on a rock with his back to Sam. He had neatly trimmed white blonde hair and wore a mint green suit with what looked like daisy epaulets on the shoulders. He was hunched over what appeared to be a stone tablet with a screen. "Hello?" Sam said. The man twisted to see him. A sliver of an Icelandic patterned sweater was visible underneath his suit jacket. "You're not supposed to be here," the man said. He tapped his stone tablet and the meadow disappeared. Again, Sam was plunged into darkness and tiny lights, and then the lights began to swirl. "Ah!" he cried, and then, whoa! Within the swirl, he saw vague shapes moved and shift. One looked like a face or a dog. No, a mix of a wolf and a man. It was very like the hairy face picture he'd seen on the Icelandic Roots database when he'd learned about his ancestors. A gravelly voice sounded inside his head. "Give it back," it said. Sam's blood turned to ice. It came from the Wolfman image, he was sure of it, though the lips had not moved. Give what back? The shape disappeared. The light swirled again and he felt himself spin. He closed his eyes, but that made his stomach lurch. A sour taste rose in the back of his mouth. The darkness retreated with a poof, and he looked up at a sky like he'd never seen. Instead of blue, it was a shade of green that reminded him of celery. Sam's breath came in shallow gasps as he tried to make sense of what he saw. The mysterious man in the suit said he hadn't belonged in that meadow. Sam didn't belong here either. "Wait!" he called to nobody. "You made a mistake." It was the book. It must have been magical. He glanced about, but didn't see it. Was that what the wolf man had wanted? He rubbed his eyes. His breathing slowed as he assured himself that he'd only imagined that face. In the weirdness that his life had become, his brain had simply latched on to the scariest thing he'd recently read about. Wrong answer, brain, but nice try. Everything had been fine and normal before he picked up that book. Not normal as in eat breakfast, go to school, and hang out with friends, but normal as possible for a boy who just learned he had magical powers and is destined to fight a great evil. He was a son of the Solstice, his long-lost mother had said through a hologram. His mother, who had abandoned him at birth to keep an evil sorcerer from finding him, and was now hanging out on an alternate world with his new Osbornian pal, Flum. Sam took in his new surroundings. Instead of his bed with its soft green blanket, he was seated on a grassy slope surrounded by spiky purple flowers with heads as big as soccer balls. They had a sickly sweet scent that reminded Sam of the bottle of air freshener that Dad kept under the sink in the bathroom. "Dad!" When his father realized Sam was missing, he'd be so worried. He was a scientist down to his toes. He did not believe in magic, even though he'd seen it with his own eyes. Dad thought everything could be explained by science. He'd never imagined that Sam had disappeared through a book. Downslope, there was a green forested valley with trees that looked like ash and elm amongst others he did not recognize. In the distance on either side, the elevation rose. To his left, there were ice-topped mountains. To his right, volcanoes belched steam and spat molten lava. Rock walls rose behind him, and on the far side of the valley until they fuzzed out and blended with the sky. It made Sam feel like he was in a giant serving spoon. Strangely, his initial panic was gone. A few days earlier, he'd thought anxiety might trap him indoors for the rest of his life, but that was before he'd learned that magic was real. It was magic that brought him here. It could not be anything else. "Hello?" he called. No one answered. He was alone. Extremely alone. In fact, he'd never felt more alone. He took a deep breath. A rustling sounded from the underbrush. He gulped. It was probably just a squirrel or something squirrel-like. He hoped that whatever it was didn't have giant teeth and an appetite for Earth kids. "Euryquilio!" came an unsquirrel-like call. A figure emerged. He was at least 7 feet tall, with bulbous cheeks and ears set high. Close-cropped dark hair framed a tawny face, with eyes the color of pink cotton candy. "A monster!" Sam brushed against the flowers as he leapt to his feet. Ouch! The spiky petals scratched his arms, which immediately began to itch. In a blink, the monster was beside him. He pulled a jar from a leather satchel and lathered a thick cream on Sam's scratches before Sam had a chance to bat him away. He also uttered a string of unintelligible words that sounded suspiciously like an admonishment. If Sam had any remaining doubt that he wasn't on Earth, this was the clincher. The itching eased, and Sam stopped struggling. "Thank you," Sam said hesitantly to the odd-looking but helpful stranger. Maybe not a monster, after all. The stranger's forehead creased, followed by a aha expression of understanding. He motioned for Sam to follow as he disappeared back into the foliage. Hang on," Sam called. Moving carefully to avoid brushing against any more flowers, he followed the stranger and emerged in a clearing. "Can you understand me now?" the tall stranger asked. He had a very slight British accent, the posh sort. Sam half expected him to pull out a pot of tea. "Yes?" The stranger tapped his right ear. "Good, we are out of the pocket." He held up a wooden carving, very like the runic symbol Flum had shown Sam when they'd met in Sam's hometown of Gilla Farm. The magical rune had allowed Flum and Sam to communicate despite their difference in language. "Don't you have one?" he asked. Sam shook his head. "Too bad. That was a no-magic pocket, but if you'd also had a rune, we would have been able to understand each other." "Is this Osborne?" The stranger blinked at him and lowered the rune. "Of course not. It is Goat Loops, third rock in the Niff realm," the stranger said. "And I am Elska. You are?" Goat Loops? Niff realm? He had no idea where that was in his new understanding of the universe, but it felt far. Flum had told Sam that when the newborn Earth began its great journey, alternate worlds had been created as it came to forks in its path. The most powerful telescopes on Earth would never find them. You could only travel from one to the next through magical shifts. Shifts were very hard to find. "I'm Sam, from Earth." "Earth? Interesting. Passage to Midgard has been closed for years." He turned as if to leave. "I was in my room, and then I was in another place, not here. I saw a man with a green suit with flowers on the shoulders. I think he sent me here." Elska paused and tilted his oddly shaped head. "Did this man have very short blonde hair?" Sam nodded. "Might have been Loki. He's known for a suit like that, and for meddling, though I can't think why he'd take an interest in one so—" He looked Sam up and down. "Small." "Loki?" The only Loki Sam had heard of was from the Nordic myths. Where am I? Elska tapped Sam swiftly 3 times on the head. Did your passage scramble your brains? Goat Loops has a very high concentration of source magic. The most gifted scholars come here to study and hone their magical practice. Sam looked around. Are there goats on Goat Loops? Elska narrowed his eyes. Are you trying to be funny? I've heard that about humans, but it has been many years since Goat Loops has had a magic scholar from Midgard. I'm not a magic scholar. I'm supposed to start grade 7 in a few weeks. Sam sat on a rock. My dad will be worried. He won't know where I've gone. Oh dear. Well, I really must be off. But I need to get home. Good luck with that, and I sincerely mean that. Elska had a leather satchel slung over a shoulder. He wore a light khaki-colored jacket with pockets covering every inch possible and sturdy leather hiking boots. His clothing looked similar to what might be found on Earth. Can I come with you? Elska considered him. Are you a scientist? No, but my dad is. Not helpful. I'm an environmental scientist originally from the Jot realm. Jot? Do they not teach this in your schools? Jot realm is the historical home of the giants, though as you've probably guessed, I'm only half giant. My mother is human. He looked wistful. I would so like to see Miss Midgard one day. It's not easy to reach, especially now. Elska was tall, but not a giant as Sam understood from fiction. No fee, fi, fo, fum. He was about to ask how tall full giants were when a buzzing insect landed on his nose and his face exploded in a sneeze. Oh, the gesundheitbeitels are thick in this area, Elska said, waving the insect away with his extra-large hand. I have returned to Goat Loops to take readings. The scientific community has long believed that excessive magic would eventually contribute to the creation of a dome effect that will, in layman's terms, suck the magic out of a world. You said we were in a... Sam rewound their conversation in his head. No magic pocket. A pocket is a byproduct of excessive magic use. Not as worrying as a dome, but annoying. It is what remains when magic is sucked out of a particular space. It looked normal, except for the green sky. Pockets are colorless, odorless, and undetectable to the average sorcerer until they attempt to use magic and find they cannot. For years we have warned the Great Governance. Great Governance? Elska frowned. The parliamentary body that regulates participating realms. I believe in the early days, primitive people from your world thought they were gods. That was before your citizens persecuted magic practitioners and relegated the GG to storybooks. GG? Hello, the Great Governance? Sam's head spun. Elska had already mentioned Loki. Did he mean Nordic gods like Odin and Thor? We told Odin and the others this would happen, but did they listen? No. We even sent bulletins to every world where magic use is significant. He sighed again. But citizens treated our warning with skepticism. It'll never happen, they said. It will, we told them. And now it has. Our readings indicate that a dome will occur much sooner than anyone expected. That it will manifest first on Goat Loops is logical because of the mysterium, and that is... Only the best and biggest school within all the known realms for magic preservation and study, also a strong source of magic emissions. If we do not reduce emissions, the dome will grow and, we suspect, eventually deplete all magic from this realm. His bottom lip quivered and his voice broke. That would be catastrophic to the universal order. Gee, was all Sam could think to say. Gee, indeed! We should have an entire team devoted to this research. Instead, the GG bowed to political pressure and have provided funding for only one. Me. He reslung his satchel. Enough talk. I must get to the Frost Mountains. Data awaits, etc. Good luck to you. But I don't know how to get home. That sounds like a you problem. Sam was flabbergasted. You would seriously leave me here? As I said, I have work to do. But that's mean. Sam kicked at a stone and was surprised to hear a squeal. Elska rested a hand on his shoulder. Don't take out your frustrations on a burble. A burble? Sam asked, looking in the direction he'd kicked. Whatever it was gone. A buzz began and morphed into a low rumble. "What was that?" Sam asked. The rumble grew in volume like that of an approaching train or a large crowd mumbling and grumbling. "Burbles!" Elska cried. "Normally gentle, but fierce and relentless when riled." "I suggest you run for it." The thing Sam had kicked had been small and rock-like. What emerged from the brush were various-sized gray lumps with flat bottoms that traveled swiftly on hidden feet over the uneven ground. The larger ones had elephant-like skin. The smaller ones were smooth. They sounded angry. "Too late! Quick! Get on my shoulders!" Elska knelt. Sam clambered up just in time. A sea of angry burbles surrounded them. End of chapter 1. The book is Peanut Butter and Pandemonium, book 2 in my Mythic Adventures of Samuel Templeton. You can find out on more on my website, anitadaher.com, or visit any bookstore or library. Thanks.